Question 1. The review process indicates that a user is attempting to transfer a large, sensitive company document to an external party and is requesting to use their personal, unencrypted cloud storage account for this purpose, citing convenience. The IT support technician is aware that this method is not approved by company policy due to security risks. Option A. Immediately disable the user's access to their personal cloud storage account to prevent any further security policy violations. Option B. Explain to the user the security risks associated with using unencrypted personal cloud storage for sensitive company data and offer to assist them in using the company-approved secure file transfer solution. Option C. Grant the user's request to use their personal cloud storage, but advise them to be more careful in the future. Option D. Instruct the user to disable their endpoint security software temporarily to speed up the file transfer process. The correct answer is B. Explain to the user the security risks associated with using unencrypted personal cloud storage for sensitive company data and offer to assist them in using the company-approved secure file transfer solution. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support, balancing user convenience with security best practices and organizational policy. The technician is faced with a user who is experiencing a legitimate productivity issue, but is requesting a solution that bypasses established security protocols. The challenge lies in addressing the user's immediate need without compromising the integrity of the network or violating compliance requirements, which are paramount in a professional IT environment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves educating the user on the risks associated with their request and offering an alternative solution that adheres to security policies. This aligns with the CompTIA exam's emphasis on understanding security principles and professional conduct. By explaining why the requested action is not permissible due to potential security vulnerabilities, e.g., malware introduction, data exfiltration, the technician upholds the organization's security posture. Offering a secure, policy-compliant alternative, like using a company-approved cloud storage solution or a secure file transfer protocol, demonstrates a commitment to both user support and risk mitigation, which are core tenets of professional IT practice. This approach prioritizes data integrity and system security, essential for maintaining a trusted IT environment. Incorrect approach is analysis. Granting the user's request to transfer sensitive company data via an unencrypted personal cloud storage service is a significant security failure. This action directly violates data protection policies and introduces a high risk of data breach, unauthorized access, and noncompliance with potential data privacy regulations. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of secure data handling practices and a disregard for organizational security protocols. Suggesting the user disable security software to facilitate the transfer is equally problematic. Security software is in place to protect against threats. Bypassing these measures leaves the system vulnerable to malware, ransomware, and other cyber attacks, potentially compromising not only the user's workstation, but also the entire network. This action directly undermines the security infrastructure and demonstrates a severe lapse in professional judgment. Ignoring the user's request and providing no solution is also an incorrect approach, though less severe from a security perspective. While it avoids a security breach, it fails to address the user's legitimate need and demonstrates poor customer service. In a professional setting, IT support is expected to find solutions, even if they require guiding the user towards policy-compliant methods. This approach neglects the service aspect of IT support. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the user's underlying need. Then, they must assess the request against established security policies and best practices. If the request violates policy, the professional should clearly explain the risks and reasons for denial. Crucially, they must then offer alternative, secure, and policy-compliant solutions. This iterative process of understanding, assessing, communicating, and problem-solving ensures both user satisfaction and the protection of organizational assets. Question 2. The evaluation methodology shows a technician is performing a hardware repair on a customer's personal laptop. During the process, the technician notices a folder clearly labeled Personal Financial Documents containing unencrypted spreadsheets with sensitive information like bank account numbers and social security numbers. The customer is not present during the repair. What is the most ethical and professional course of action for the technician? Option A. Immediately close the folder, complete the repair, and pretend not to have seen the sensitive information. Option B. Access the files to verify the type of data and then make a note of it for future reference. Option C. Discreetly document the presence of the sensitive data and inform the customer about it upon their return, offering assistance in securing or removing it if they wish. Option D. Report the discovery of the sensitive data to the IT department manager without informing the customer first. The correct answer is C. Discreetly document the presence of the sensitive data and inform the customer about it upon their return, offering assistance in securing or removing it if they wish. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common ethical dilemma in IT support where a technician discovers sensitive personal information during a routine repair. The challenge lies in balancing the user's privacy with the need to ensure the device is functioning correctly and securely. The technician must act responsibly without overstepping boundaries or violating trust. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves documenting the discovery and informing the user directly and discreetly about the presence of sensitive data. This upholds the principle of user privacy and informed consent. By offering to assist the user in securing or removing the data, the technician demonstrates professionalism and a commitment to customer service, while adhering to implied data handling best practices that prioritize user control over their information. This aligns with general IT ethical guidelines that emphasize confidentiality and user autonomy. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach is to ignore the sensitive data and proceed with the repair. This fails to address a potential security risk for the user and could be seen as negligent if the data were later compromised. It also misses an opportunity to provide valuable assistance and build trust. Another incorrect approach is to immediately report the discovery to a supervisor or IT manager without first informing the user. This violates the user's privacy and could damage the trust relationship. Unless there is a clear indication of illegal activity or a direct threat to the organization's security, which is not implied here, direct user communication is the ethical first step. A third incorrect approach is to access or copy the sensitive data for personal review or to share it with others. This is a severe breach of privacy and confidentiality and likely violates data protection regulations and company policy. It constitutes a serious ethical and potentially legal violation. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by first considering the principle of do no harm and respecting user privacy. The decision-making process should involve 1. Identifying the ethical conflict privacy vs. potential security. 2. Prioritizing user consent and confidentiality. 3. Communicating directly and professionally with the user. 4. Offering appropriate assistance within the scope of their role. 5. Documenting actions taken. This framework ensures that actions are both technically sound and ethically responsible. Question 3. Compliance review shows that a technician is troubleshooting a user's laptop experiencing slow performance. While investigating, the technician notices a folder on the desktop containing what appears to be sensitive personal financial documents. The user is not present at their desk. What is the most appropriate course of action for the technician? Option A. Ignore the folder and focus solely on system-level performance diagnostics, assuming it is unrelated to the issue. Option B. Proceed to open and review the contents of the financial folder to determine if it is contributing to the system's slow performance. Option C. Immediately delete the folder, as it is likely irrelevant to the technical problem and could pose a security risk. Option D. Politely inform the user about the observed folder and ask for their permission to examine its contents if it is deemed relevant to the performance issue. The correct answer is D. Politely inform the user about the observed folder and ask for their permission to examine its contents if it is deemed relevant to the performance issue. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support where a technician encounters a user's personal data on a company-owned device. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient troubleshooting with the user's privacy rights and company data security policies. A technician must exercise careful judgment to avoid unauthorized access or disclosure of sensitive information while still resolving the technical issue. The potential for misinterpreting the situation or overstepping boundaries is high, requiring a nuanced approach. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes user privacy and adherence to company policy. By clearly communicating with the user about the nature of the issue and seeking explicit permission before accessing personal files, the technician upholds ethical standards and respects the user's data. This aligns with best practices for data handling and privacy, which are implicitly governed by general IT ethics and the principle of least privilege. The technician is acting as a trusted agent of the company, and their actions must reflect that trust by being transparent and respectful of user data. Incorrect approaches analysis. Accessing personal files without explicit user consent, even if seemingly necessary for troubleshooting, constitutes a breach of privacy and potentially violates company policy regarding data access. This action could lead to disciplinary action and damage the trust between the IT department and users. It also exposes the company to potential liability if sensitive data is mishandled or disclosed. Ignoring the personal files and proceeding with a generic fix without understanding the root cause might resolve the immediate symptom, but could lead to recurring issues or a misdiagnosis. This approach lacks thoroughness and could result in an inefficient or ineffective resolution, failing to meet the user's needs adequately. It demonstrates a lack of commitment to a complete and accurate solution. Deleting personal files, even if perceived as irrelevant to the technical problem, is a severe violation of user data ownership and privacy. This action is unethical, unprofessional, and could have legal repercussions for both the technician and the company. It represents a complete disregard for user rights and data integrity. Professional reasoning. Professionals should always approach situations involving user data with a framework that prioritizes privacy, security, and transparency. This involves 1. Understanding the reported issue thoroughly. 2. Identifying potential areas of investigation, including user data if relevant. 3. Communicating openly with the user about the problem and the proposed troubleshooting steps, especially if they involve accessing personal files. 4. Obtaining explicit consent before accessing any personal data. 5. Adhering strictly to company policies regarding data privacy and security. 6. Documenting all actions taken and permissions granted. Question 4. Benchmark analysis indicates that a technician is tasked with repairing a customer's laptop that contains financial records and personal identification documents. The technician needs to access the operating system to diagnose hardware issues, but the data itself is not directly relevant to the repair. Which of the following actions best adheres to regulatory compliance and professional ethics? Option A. Proceed with the repair without altering the data, assuming it will not be accessed. Option B. Copy the sensitive data to a separate, unsecured drive for safekeeping during the repair. Option C. Anonymize or redact sensitive data before proceeding with the repair. Option D. Delete all sensitive files to ensure they are not compromised during the repair. Correct answer is C. Anonymize or redact sensitive data before proceeding with the repair. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support where a technician encounters sensitive customer data during a hardware repair. The professional challenge lies in balancing the need to perform the repair effectively with the absolute requirement to protect customer privacy and comply with data protection regulations. The technician must make a judgment call on how to handle the data without compromising its integrity or violating privacy laws. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves anonymizing or redacting the sensitive data before proceeding with the repair. This aligns with the principles of data minimization and privacy by design, which are fundamental to data protection regulations. By removing or obscuring personally identifiable information, PI, the technician ensures that the data is no longer accessible or identifiable to them or anyone else involved in the repair process, thereby preventing unauthorized access or disclosure. This proactive measure upholds the customer's right to privacy and demonstrates adherence to regulatory requirements for data handling. Incorrect approach is analysis. Ignoring the sensitive data and proceeding with the repair without any precautions is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This approach directly violates data protection principles by exposing PII to potential compromise during the repair process. It demonstrates a lack of awareness or disregard for the technician's responsibility to protect customer information, leading to a breach of trust and potential legal repercussions for the organization. Copying the data to a separate, unsecured location for later review or analysis is also a serious failure. This action creates an unnecessary copy of sensitive information, increasing the risk of data loss or unauthorized access. It bypasses established security protocols and fails to implement appropriate safeguards for handling PII, directly contravening regulatory mandates for data security. Deleting the data without proper authorization or a clear understanding of its purpose is another critical failure. While seemingly a way to remove sensitive information, it can lead to data loss for the customer if that data was essential for their operations or personal use. Furthermore, unauthorized deletion can be considered data destruction without due process, which may have its own legal implications and violates the principle of data integrity. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach. When encountering sensitive data, the first step is to identify the nature of the data and its potential sensitivity. Then, consult organizational policies and relevant regulations regarding data handling and privacy. If direct access or manipulation is required for the repair, implement data anonymization or redaction techniques. If the data is not essential for the repair, it should be left untouched or handled according to specific data disposal or transfer protocols. Documenting all actions taken regarding sensitive data is crucial for accountability and audit trails. Question 5. During the evaluation of a new cloud-based accounting software for a small retail business, which of the following approaches best represents a professional risk assessment process? Option A. Identify potential threats to data integrity and system availability, analyze the likelihood and potential impact of these threats, and propose appropriate mitigation strategies. Option B. Prioritize the software's feature set and user interface, assuming that the vendor has already addressed all security concerns. Option C. Deploy the software to a small group of users first and gather feedback on performance before considering any security implications. Option D. Proceed with the software installation and configuration and address any security issues that arise after the system is live. The correct answer is A. Identify potential threats to data integrity and system availability, analyze the likelihood and potential impact of these threats, and propose appropriate mitigation strategies. Explanation. Scenario analysis. A technician is tasked with assessing the risk associated with a new software deployment in a small business environment. The challenge lies in balancing the potential benefits of the new software against the inherent security vulnerabilities and operational disruptions it might introduce. Without a structured risk assessment, the business could be exposed to data breaches, system downtime, or compliance issues, all of which can have significant financial and reputational consequences. The technician must consider not only technical risks, but also the impact on business operations and user adoption. Correct approach analysis. The most professional and effective approach is to conduct a comprehensive risk assessment that identifies potential threats, analyzes their likelihood and impact, and then proposes mitigation strategies. This aligns with best practices in IT security and operational management. By systematically evaluating each risk, the technician can prioritize actions, allocate resources efficiently, and ensure that the new software is implemented in a way that minimizes potential harm to the business. This proactive approach helps in making informed decisions about security controls, backup procedures, and user training, thereby safeguarding the business's assets and continuity. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing the software immediately without any prior risk evaluation is a failure to adhere to basic IT security principles and due diligence. This approach disregards potential vulnerabilities and exposes the business to significant, unmitigated risks, which could lead to data loss or system compromise. Ethically, it represents a dereliction of duty to protect the client's interests. Focusing solely on the technical features and benefits of the software, while ignoring potential security implications, is an incomplete risk assessment. This oversight can lead to the deployment of a system that is technically sound but operationally insecure, creating a false sense of readiness and leaving the business exposed to threats that were not considered. This is a failure in professional judgment and a potential breach of the implicit trust placed in the technician to ensure a secure implementation. Waiting for a security incident to occur before addressing potential risks is a reactive and irresponsible strategy. It demonstrates a lack of foresight and a failure to implement preventative measures. This approach not only puts the business at immediate risk, but also incurs greater costs and damage when an incident inevitably happens, as opposed to proactive mitigation. It is a clear violation of professional responsibility to anticipate and prevent foreseeable harm. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach risk assessment by first understanding the business context and objectives. This involves identifying critical assets, potential threats, and vulnerabilities. The next step is to analyze the likelihood and impact of identified risks. Based on this analysis, appropriate mitigation strategies should be developed and prioritized. This systematic process ensures that decisions are data-driven, aligned with business needs, and focused on achieving the best possible outcome while managing potential downsides. Continuous monitoring and review are also crucial components of effective risk management. Question 6. Stakeholder feedback indicates that a user is experiencing a critical system outage and claims they need immediate access to a shared drive containing sensitive project files to meet a client deadline. The user is becoming increasingly agitated and is requesting the technician bypass standard access request procedures to grant them access quickly. The technician is aware of the standard procedure, which involves submitting a formal request, obtaining manager approval, and then provisioning access. What is the most appropriate course of action for the technician? Option A. Advise the user to wait until the standard procedure is completed, even if it means missing their client deadline. Option B. Immediately grant the user access to the shared drive to resolve the perceived emergency and avoid further user frustration. Option C. Politely explain the importance of following the standard access request procedure to maintain data security and offer to help expedite the formal request process. Option D. Share a temporary password with the user for the shared drive, with instructions to change it later. The correct answer is C. Politely explain the importance of following the standard access request procedure to maintain data security and offer to help expedite the formal request process. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support where a user's perceived urgency conflicts with established security protocols. The technician must balance the user's immediate need for access with the organization's responsibility to protect sensitive data and maintain system integrity. Failing to adhere to proper procedures could lead to security breaches, data loss, or noncompliance with internal policies, which are implicitly governed by the principles of data protection and responsible IT management expected in a professional IT environment. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes security and proper procedure, verifying the user's identity and the legitimacy of the request through established channels, like a help desk ticket or manager approval, is crucial. This aligns with best practices for access control and data security, ensuring that only authorized individuals gain access to sensitive information and that system changes are documented and approved. This methodical approach prevents unauthorized access and maintains an audit trail, which is fundamental to responsible IT operations and implicitly supports the principles of data integrity and confidentiality. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately granting access without verification. This bypasses security protocols, potentially exposing sensitive data to unauthorized individuals and violating the principle of least privilege, creates a security vulnerability, and undermines the organization's security posture. Another incorrect approach is to dismiss the user's request outright without attempting to understand the underlying need or offering alternative solutions. This demonstrates poor customer service and can lead to user frustration and workarounds that further compromise security. It fails to address the user's problem effectively and can damage the IT department's reputation. A third incorrect approach is to attempt a quick fix that circumvents standard security measures, such as sharing a temporary password or disabling a security feature. This is a direct violation of security policies and creates significant risks. It introduces vulnerabilities that can be exploited and leaves the system in an insecure state, directly contravening the principles of secure system administration and data protection. Professional reasoning. Professionals should always follow established procedures for access requests and system changes. When faced with user urgency, the decision-making process should involve 1. Acknowledging the user's concern. 2. Explaining the need for adherence to security protocols. 3. Offering to expedite the verification process through official channels. 4. Providing alternative secure solutions if immediate access is not possible. This layered approach ensures security, maintains user trust, and upholds professional standards. Question 7. Risk assessment procedures indicate that a user is unable to access their workstation due to a forgotten password and requires immediate access to critical business applications. The user is requesting a quick resolution to avoid significant work disruption. What is the most appropriate course of action for the technician? Option A. Reset the user's password to a default password that is easily remembered. Option B. Guide the user through the standard secure password reset procedure, which may involve identity verification. Option C. Provide the user with a temporary password that they can use to log in immediately. Option D. Ask the user for their old password to verify their identity before resetting it. The correct answer is B. Guide the user through the standard secure password reset procedure, which may involve identity verification. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in IT support, balancing user convenience with security best practices and regulatory compliance. The professional must navigate the immediate need for a user to access critical data against the potential long-term risks of compromised credentials and unauthorized access. Core of the challenge lies in the potential for data breaches and the associated liabilities, which are implicitly governed by general IT security principles and the expectation of due diligence in protecting sensitive information, even without explicit U.S. federal regulations being cited in the CompTIA, a plus 220-901 exam syllabus for this specific scenario. The exam focuses on foundational IT knowledge, including security best practices that are universally accepted in the IT industry. The correct approach prioritizes security and adherence to established protocols. By requiring the user to follow the standard password reset procedure, the technician ensures that the user's account is secured through a verified process. This upholds the principle of least privilege and prevents potential unauthorized access if the user's original password had been compromised. This aligns with the general expectation of IT professionals to maintain system integrity and protect data, which is a fundamental ethical and professional responsibility. While the CompTIA, a plus 220-901 exam, does not delve into specific U.S. federal laws like HIPAA or SOX for this level, it emphasizes the importance of security best practices that underpin such regulations. An incorrect approach that bypasses standard security procedures, such as providing a temporary password without verification or resetting the password to a default that the user might not change, creates significant security vulnerabilities. This could lead to unauthorized access to sensitive data, which, in a real-world scenario, could have legal and financial repercussions for the organization. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for the organization's security posture. Another incorrect approach, like demanding the user's old password, is not only a security risk, but also a violation of privacy and standard IT support protocols. It implies a lack of trust and an unprofessional interaction. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core problem: user locked out, needs access. Next, they should assess the risks associated with potential solutions, considering security, user impact, and organizational policy. The preferred solution is the one that mitigates risk while fulfilling the user's legitimate need. In this case, the standard secure password reset process is the most appropriate. If organizational policy allows for exceptions, these should be clearly defined, documented, and approved, and still prioritize security. Question 8. Regulatory review indicates that a remote employee is experiencing performance issues with their personal laptop, which they use to access company email and internal cloud-based applications. The employee reports that certain work-related applications are frequently crashing. The IT support technician is tasked with assisting the employee. What is the most appropriate course of action for the technician to take to resolve the issue while adhering to company policy and data security best practices? Option A. Remotely access the employee's laptop and immediately begin uninstalling any non-essential personal software that might be consuming system resources, as this is a common cause of application instability. Option B. Instruct the employee to contact the manufacturer of their personal laptop for technical support, as the issue is with their personal hardware and not directly related to company-provided equipment. Option C. Advise the employee to back up any critical personal data, and then remotely access the laptop to investigate and troubleshoot the crashing applications, focusing on the operating system and work-related software. Option D. Guide the employee through troubleshooting steps that focus on the work-related applications and their interaction with the operating system, while advising them to consult the personal device manufacturer or software vendor for issues pertaining to their personal applications or the core operating system. The correct answer is C. Advise the employee to back up any critical personal data and then remotely access the laptop to investigate and troubleshoot the crashing applications, focusing on the operating system and work-related software. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support where a user's personal device, used for work-related tasks, may contain sensitive company data. Professional challenge lies in balancing the need to resolve the user's technical issue with the imperative to protect company data and adhere to organizational policies. The technician must navigate potential privacy concerns and data security protocols without causing undue disruption to the user's workflow or compromising the integrity of company information. Careful judgment is required to determine the scope of the investigation and the appropriate level of access. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic process that prioritizes data security and compliance. It begins with understanding the user's reported issue and its potential impact on work. The technician should then consult the organization's acceptable use policy and data handling guidelines. If the issue is isolated to the user's personal applications and does not appear to involve company data, the technician should guide the user through troubleshooting steps that focus on the personal environment, or advise the user to seek support from the personal device manufacturer or software vendor. If there is any indication that company data might be affected or compromised, the technician must escalate the issue to the appropriate IT security or management personnel, providing a clear and concise summary of the situation and the potential risks. This approach ensures that company data is protected, privacy is respected, and organizational policies are followed, representing best professional practice by adhering to the principle of least privilege and maintaining a secure IT environment. Incorrect approaches analysis. Accessing the user's personal files without explicit permission or a clear policy justification is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This violates user privacy and could contravene data protection laws, even if the device is used for work. Such an action erodes trust and can lead to legal repercussions for the organization. Attempting to fix the issue by directly manipulating or deleting files on the personal device, even with good intentions, is also problematic. Without understanding the full context of the user's data and applications, this could lead to accidental data loss or corruption, impacting both personal and potentially work-related information. This demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the user's ownership and control over their personal device. Ignoring the issue because it is on a personal device is also an unacceptable approach. While the device is personal, its use for work implies a responsibility on the part of the organization to ensure that company data accessed or stored on it is secure. Failing to address potential security risks, even indirectly, can leave the company vulnerable to data breaches. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a decision-making process that begins with understanding the scope of the problem and its potential impact on company assets and data. This involves consulting relevant organizational policies, such as acceptable use policies, data security guidelines, and incident response plans. When dealing with personal devices used for work, a tiered approach is recommended. First, attempt to resolve the issue by focusing on the work-related aspects and guiding the user to manage their personal environment independently. If there is any doubt or indication of company data compromise, escalation to a specialized IT security team or management is crucial. Documentation of all steps taken, communications, and decisions is essential for accountability and future reference. This framework ensures a balance between user support, data protection, and regulatory compliance. Question 9. Operational review demonstrates that a user in the accounting department frequently needs to access sensitive financial reports stored on a network share. To expedite their workflow, the user has requested that their workstation be configured to automatically map this network share at startup, bypassing the need for manual login credentials each time. The technician is aware that this configuration, if implemented without specific security controls, potentially expose the credentials or the data if the workstation is compromised. Option A. Explain to the user the security risks associated with automatically mapping network drives with elevated privileges, and offer to set up a secure shortcut to the network share that requires authentication each time it is accessed. Option B. Advise the user that their request cannot be fulfilled due to security policies and provide no alternative solutions. Option C. Implement the automatic mapping of the network share as requested by the user to improve their productivity, as the user is in a trusted department. Option D. Create a separate, less secure network share with read-only access for the user's frequently accessed reports and map that automatically. The correct answer is A. Explain to the user the security risks associated with automatically mapping network drives with elevated privileges and offer to set up a secure shortcut to the network share that requires authentication each time it is accessed. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support, balancing user convenience and data security. The technician is faced with a request that, while seemingly simple and aimed at improving user workflow, bypasses established security protocols. The professional challenge lies in upholding security policies without alienating the user or hindering their legitimate work. The technician must assess the risk associated with the requested change against the perceived benefit. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves educating the user on the security implications of their request and offering a secure, policy-compliant alternative. This upholds best professional practices by prioritizing data security and adhering to organizational policies, which are designed to protect sensitive information. By explaining the why behind the policy, the technician fosters user understanding and cooperation, promoting a security-conscious culture. This aligns with the principle of least privilege and the need for authorized access to sensitive data, fundamental to maintaining system integrity and compliance with data protection guidelines. Incorrect approaches analysis. Granting the request without proper authorization or assessment is a significant security failure. It undermines established security protocols, potentially exposing sensitive data to unauthorized access or modification. This action violates the principle of accountability and could lead to a breach of data confidentiality, integrity, or availability, all critical components of information security. Implementing a workaround that bypasses security controls, even with good intentions, creates a vulnerability. This is a direct contravention of security policies and best practices. It demonstrates a lack of understanding of the potential downstream consequences and the importance of maintaining a secure computing environment. Such actions can lead to audit failures and increased risk of security incidents. Ignoring the request and providing no alternative solution is unprofessional and unhelpful. While it avoids a direct security breach, it fails to address the user's legitimate need and can lead to frustration and a perception of unresponsiveness. This approach does not contribute to a collaborative security environment and can encourage users to seek unauthorized solutions themselves. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such requests by first understanding the user's objective. Then, they must evaluate the request against established security policies and risk assessments. If the request poses a security risk, the professional should clearly communicate the risks to the user and explain the relevant policies. Finally, they should propose and implement a secure, policy-compliant solution that meets the user's needs. This iterative process of understanding, assessing, communicating, and resolving ensures both user satisfaction and robust security. Question 10. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a data breach due to an unpatched legacy system, with a high potential impact on customer privacy and business operations. A technician identifies this vulnerability. Which of the following actions best addresses this situation according to industry best practices and regulatory expectations for data security? Option A. Inform management of the risk and await further instruction, as patching legacy systems can be complex and disruptive. Option B. Document the vulnerability in a report and add it to the backlog for future system upgrades, prioritizing newer systems first. Option C. Immediately schedule and perform the necessary patching on the legacy system, documenting the process and verifying the fix. Option D. Apply a temporary network access control list to limit access to the system until a more permanent solution can be found. The correct answer is C. Immediately schedule and perform the necessary patching on the legacy system, documenting the process and verifying the fix. Explanation. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a data breach due to an unpatched legacy system, with a high potential impact on customer privacy and business operations. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate cost and effort of patching against the significant potential consequences of a breach. A technician must not only understand the technical implications, but also the broader business and regulatory ramifications. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes proactive risk mitigation in alignment with data privacy regulations. By immediately addressing the vulnerability, the technician is acting in accordance with the principle of data minimization and security by design, which are fundamental to protecting sensitive information and maintaining customer trust. This aligns with the spirit of regulations that mandate reasonable security measures to prevent unauthorized access or disclosure of personal data. An incorrect approach that involves ignoring the vulnerability due to perceived inconvenience or cost would be a direct failure to implement reasonable security measures. This could lead to a violation of data protection laws, resulting in significant fines and reputational damage. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting a quick, temporary workaround without proper testing or documentation, risks introducing new vulnerabilities or failing to fully resolve the issue, thereby not meeting the standard of due care required. A third incorrect approach, which is to defer the patching indefinitely, demonstrates a disregard for potential harm and a failure to uphold professional responsibility to protect systems and data. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making process. This involves identifying potential threats, assessing their likelihood and impact, and then determining the most appropriate response. In this case, the high potential impact necessitates immediate action. The decision should be informed by organizational policies, regulatory requirements, and a thorough understanding of the system's criticality. Escalation to management for resource allocation or approval for downtime is a crucial part of this process, ensuring that necessary actions are supported and documented. Question 11. Implementation of a network infrastructure upgrade for a small business handling customer PII requires the technician to address critical security vulnerabilities discovered mid-project. Which course of action best upholds professional responsibility and data protection principles? Option A. Immediately implement robust security measures as part of the upgrade, even if it extends the timeline and requires additional resources, ensuring comprehensive data protection. Option B. Proceed with the upgrade without addressing the vulnerabilities, prioritizing the deadline over potential data security risks. Option C. Propose and implement the most advanced and expensive security solutions available, regardless of the business's budget or immediate needs. Option D. Complete the network upgrade according to the original schedule, applying only superficial security patches to address immediate concerns. Correct answer is A. Immediately implement robust security measures as part of the upgrade, even if it extends the timeline and requires additional resources, ensuring comprehensive data protection. Explanation. Scenario analysis. A technician is tasked with upgrading a small business's network infrastructure. The business handles sensitive customer data, including personal identifiable information, PI. The technician discovers that the current network configuration has significant security vulnerabilities that could lead to data breaches. The challenge lies in balancing the immediate need for a functional network with the imperative to protect sensitive data, adhering to industry best practices and potential regulatory compliance requirements, even if not explicitly stated in the prompt. The technician must make a judgment call on how to proceed without causing undue disruption or compromising data security. Correct approach analysis. Prioritizing security by implementing robust security measures during the upgrade process, even if it means a slight delay or increased initial cost, represents best professional practice. This aligns with the principle of security by design and demonstrates a commitment to protecting customer data. In the U.S., while specific regulations like HIPAA or PCI DSS might not be directly applicable to every small business, the general duty of care to protect customer data and prevent negligence is a fundamental ethical and legal consideration. Implementing strong encryption, secure authentication, and network segmentation are proactive steps that mitigate risk and demonstrate due diligence. Incorrect approach is analysis. Proceeding with the upgrade without addressing the identified security vulnerabilities, solely to meet a tight deadline, is professionally unacceptable. This approach disregards the potential for a data breach, which could result in significant financial penalties, reputational damage, and legal liabilities for the business. It constitutes negligence and a failure to uphold the duty of care. Suggesting a minimal, temporary fix to the security issues that does not align with industry best practices, while still completing the upgrade on time, is also problematic. This approach prioritizes expediency over thoroughness and may leave the network susceptible to future attacks. It fails to implement a sustainable and secure solution. Implementing security measures that are overly complex or expensive for the business's budget without proper consultation or justification, even if well-intentioned, can also be professionally unsound. While security is paramount, solutions must be practical and proportionate to the business's needs and resources. This approach risks alienating the client and may not be sustainable long-term. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves identifying potential risks, data breach, system downtime, assessing their likelihood and impact, and then evaluating different mitigation strategies. The chosen strategy should balance security, functionality, cost, and client needs. Open communication with the client about the risks and recommended solutions is crucial. In this scenario, the technician should clearly articulate the security risks, propose a secure upgrade plan with estimated timelines and costs, and seek client approval before proceeding. Question 12. The evaluation methodology shows a technician troubleshooting a client's intermittent network connectivity issues. The client operates a small business and handles customer financial data. The technician needs to determine if the network is the sole cause of the problem. Which of the following actions best demonstrates professional best practice in this scenario? Option A. The technician accesses several user workstations, reviews recent file activity, and checks browser history to see if specific user actions coincide with network disruptions. Option B. The technician assumes the issue is with the user workstations and advises the client to re-image all computers without further network investigation. Option C. The technician uses network diagnostic tools to check router and switch configurations, ping tests to verify network path integrity, and packet captures to analyze network traffic patterns, all without accessing individual user workstations or their data. Option D. The technician begins rebooting network devices and user workstations randomly until the connectivity issue resolves. The correct answer is C. The technician uses network diagnostic tools to check router and switch configurations, ping tests to verify network path integrity, and packet captures to analyze network traffic patterns, all without accessing individual user workstations or their data. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows a technician attempting to troubleshoot a network connectivity issue for a small business client. The challenge lies in balancing the need for rapid resolution with the imperative to adhere to data privacy regulations and best practices, particularly concerning the handling of sensitive client information that might be inadvertently accessed during troubleshooting. The CompTIA, a plus certification, emphasizes practical skills and professional conduct within a defined scope, which includes respecting user data and adhering to organizational policies. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes data security and user privacy, while still aiming for effective problem resolution. By isolating the issue to the network infrastructure and avoiding direct access to user data or systems beyond what is strictly necessary for network diagnostics, the technician upholds the principle of least privilege and minimizes the risk of unauthorized data exposure. This aligns with general IT best practices and the ethical considerations expected of certified professionals, even without specific U.S. regulatory mandates being explicitly tested in this context. The underlying principles of data protection are universally recognized. An incorrect approach that involves directly accessing and reviewing user files to determine if the issue is application-specific without explicit client permission or a clear, documented need for such access represents a significant ethical and professional failure. This action breaches user privacy and potentially violates data handling policies. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the potential for data exposure and proceeding with broad system access, demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for professional responsibility. A third incorrect approach, which involves making assumptions about the data being accessed and not documenting the troubleshooting steps, fails to provide accountability and transparency, which are crucial for professional IT support. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the reported problem, identifying potential causes, and then systematically testing hypotheses, while always considering the impact on user data and system security. This involves seeking explicit consent for any actions that might involve accessing sensitive information, documenting all troubleshooting steps, and adhering to the principle of least privilege. When in doubt, consulting with a supervisor or the client for clarification on data handling is paramount. Question 13. Strategic planning requires a technician to assess a user's reported slow performance on a desktop computer that is several years old. The user states the computer has become noticeably sluggish, especially when running multiple applications simultaneously. The technician has already confirmed the operating system, and all installed applications are fully updated. What is the most appropriate next step to address the user's performance concerns? Option A. Immediately recommend the purchase of a new desktop computer to replace the aging unit. Option B. Perform a clean installation of the operating system to rule out software corruption. Option C. Advise the user to uninstall all non-essential applications to free up system resources. Option D. Run hardware diagnostics to check for potential component failures or performance bottlenecks. The correct answer is D. Run hardware diagnostics to check for potential component failures or performance bottlenecks. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support, where a technician encounters a user experiencing performance issues with a device that may be nearing the end of its supported lifespan. The professional challenge lies in balancing the user's immediate need for a functional device with the long-term implications of hardware obsolescence and the potential for security vulnerabilities. Careful judgment is required to avoid recommending unnecessary or premature hardware replacement, while also ensuring the user's productivity and data security are not compromised. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a systematic troubleshooting process that aligns with the principles of efficient resource management and user support. By first attempting software-based solutions and diagnostics, the technician minimizes potential costs and downtime for the user. This methodical approach is consistent with the implicit guidelines of responsible IT asset management, which encourage extending the useful life of hardware through proper maintenance and software optimization before considering replacement. It also indirectly supports the security posture by ensuring the operating system and applications are up to date, which is a fundamental aspect of cybersecurity best practices, even if not explicitly mandated by a specific U.S. regulation in this context. An incorrect approach that immediately suggests hardware replacement without thorough investigation fails to adhere to the principle of cost-effectiveness and can lead to unnecessary expenditure for the user or organization. This could be seen as a failure in professional diligence. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on software updates without considering the possibility of underlying hardware limitations, might lead to a temporary fix at best, or frustration for the user if the performance issues persist due to hardware constraints. This neglects a comprehensive diagnostic approach, recommending a complete system wipe and reinstall as the first step, without first attempting less invasive troubleshooting, is inefficient and can lead to significant data loss and user inconvenience, representing a failure in user-centric support. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the user's reported problem, followed by a tiered approach to troubleshooting. This involves gathering information, hypothesizing potential causes, testing hypotheses systematically, starting with the least invasive and most probable, and documenting findings. If software solutions are exhausted, then hardware diagnostics and potential upgrades or replacements are considered. This structured approach ensures that solutions are effective, efficient, and cost-conscious, while always keeping the user's experience and data integrity paramount. Question 14. The control framework reveals that a user is experiencing intermittent application crashes. The technician suspects a common software conflict, but is under pressure to restore the user's productivity immediately. Which of the following actions best balances immediate user needs with long-term system stability and security? Option A. Immediately uninstalling and reinstalling the suspected conflicting application without further investigation. Option B. Advising the user to avoid certain application features until the issue can be investigated at a later time. Option C. Performing a full system diagnostic to identify the root cause of the application crashes and consulting internal knowledge bases for known solutions before implementing any changes. Option D. Applying a generic patch or update to the operating system, hoping it resolves the underlying conflict. Correct answer is A. Immediately uninstalling and reinstalling the suspected conflicting application without further investigation. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support, where a technician must balance the immediate need for a system to function with the long-term implications of their actions. The professional challenge lies in understanding that while a quick fix might resolve an immediate user complaint, it could introduce security vulnerabilities, performance degradation, or make future troubleshooting more difficult. Careful judgment is required to assess the root cause of the issue and implement a sustainable solution rather than a temporary workaround. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough diagnostic process and adherence to established IT policies and procedures. This aligns with the principles of responsible IT management, which emphasize system stability, security, and maintainability. By documenting the issue and the steps taken, the technician contributes to a knowledge base that can benefit the entire IT department and ensure compliance with any internal audit or change management requirements. This methodical approach prevents the escalation of minor issues into major problems and upholds the integrity of the IT infrastructure. An incorrect approach that involves bypassing standard diagnostic tools and immediately applying a generic fix is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a violation of security protocols if the fix inadvertently opens a port or disables a security feature. It also demonstrates a lack of due diligence, potentially violating internal IT policies that mandate specific troubleshooting steps and documentation. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the issue until a more significant problem arises, represents a failure in proactive IT support and could lead to a breach of service level agreements, SLAs, or even regulatory noncompliance if the system in question handles sensitive data. This reactive stance is detrimental to system reliability and user productivity. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the reported problem, gathering information through systematic diagnostics, consulting available documentation and knowledge bases, and then implementing a solution that addresses the root cause. This framework should also include a step for verifying the solution and documenting the entire process. When faced with time constraints, professionals should communicate potential delays and the rationale for a thorough approach to stakeholders, rather than compromising on quality or security. Question 15. Investigation of a small business's intermittent network connectivity issues reveals that the owner is frustrated with recurring disruptions. A newly hired IT support technician, eager to impress, immediately recommends a complete network infrastructure replacement and a move to a cloud-based solution, citing industry best practices for modern businesses. The owner is concerned about the significant cost and potential disruption to their daily operations. What is the most appropriate next step for the IT support technician to take? Option A. Advise the owner to purchase new high-end networking equipment and install it themselves to save on labor costs, as the technician has already identified the likely hardware failure. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive diagnostic assessment of the current network, including hardware, software, and configuration, to identify the root cause of the connectivity issues before proposing any solutions. Option C. Proceed with the proposed network overhaul and cloud migration, explaining to the owner that these are essential upgrades to prevent future problems and ensure business continuity. Option D. Focus on implementing a temporary workaround, such as restarting routers and modems daily, to stabilize the network, while a more in-depth analysis is scheduled for a later date. Correct answer is B. Conduct a comprehensive diagnostic assessment of the current network, including hardware, software, and configuration, to identify the root cause of the connectivity issues before proposing any solutions. Explanation. Scenario analysis. A small business owner is experiencing intermittent network connectivity issues. They have contacted a local IT support technician for assistance. The technician, without fully understanding the business's critical operations or data sensitivity, immediately suggests a complete network overhaul involving new hardware and cloud migration. This scenario is professionally challenging because the technician must balance providing a solution with understanding the client's specific needs, budget, and risk tolerance. A hasty, expensive solution might be technically sound but financially crippling or operationally disruptive for the client. The technician needs to gather more information before proposing a definitive course of action. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough diagnostic process. This includes interviewing the business owner to understand the nature of the connectivity issues when they occur and their impact on operations. It also requires physically inspecting the existing network infrastructure, checking logs, and performing tests to pinpoint the root cause. This methodical approach aligns with professional IT service best practices, ensuring that the proposed solution is targeted, cost-effective, and minimizes disruption. It demonstrates a commitment to understanding the client's unique environment and business needs, which is fundamental to providing valuable and responsible IT support. Incorrect approaches analysis. Proposing an immediate, expensive network overhaul without proper diagnosis is professionally unacceptable. It fails to adhere to the principle of providing solutions that are proportionate to the problem and the client's resources. This approach could lead to unnecessary expenditure for the client and may not even resolve the underlying issue if it's a simple configuration error or a faulty component. Ethically, it borders on upselling without justification, suggesting a solution based solely on the latest technology trends, without assessing its suitability for the client's current infrastructure, security posture, or operational workflow, is also a failure. This demonstrates a lack of client centricity and a potential disregard for the client's existing investments and operational stability. It prioritizes the technician's familiarity with new technologies over the client's actual needs. Offering a quick fix that only addresses the symptoms without investigating the root cause is another professionally unsound approach. While it might provide temporary relief, it leaves the business vulnerable to recurring issues, impacting productivity and potentially leading to more significant problems down the line. This approach lacks thoroughness and foresight. Professional reasoning. Professionals should always begin by actively listening to the client's concerns and asking clarifying questions to fully understand the problem and its impact. This should be followed by a systematic diagnostic process to identify the root cause. Only after a thorough understanding of the situation should potential solutions be proposed, considering the client's budget, operational requirements, and risk tolerance. This client-focused, diagnostic-driven approach ensures that the proposed solutions are effective, efficient, and ethically sound. Question 16. What factors determine the appropriate course of action when a user requests software installation that is not on the approved list and the technician lacks the authority to approve it? Option A. Refusal of the request without any further action or explanation, citing it as outside the technician's scope. Option B. Attempting to install the software using administrative credentials without seeking explicit authorization. Option C. Immediate installation of the software to satisfy the user's request and improve productivity, regardless of policy. Option D. Adherence to organizational security policies and the principle of least privilege, involving escalation to a supervisor or IT security for approval. The correct answer is D. Adherence to organizational security policies and the principle of least privilege, involving escalation to a supervisor or IT security for approval. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support, balancing user needs with security protocols and the limitations of available resources. The technician must make a judgment call that impacts both user productivity and the integrity of the network. The professional challenge lies in navigating these competing priorities without compromising either. Careful judgment is required to ensure that the solution implemented is both effective and compliant with established policies. The correct approach prioritizes adherence to established security policies and the principle of least privilege. By escalating the request to a supervisor or the appropriate IT security personnel, the technician ensures that any deviation from standard procedure is reviewed and approved by authorized individuals. This upholds the integrity of the network, prevents unauthorized access or software installations, and aligns with best practices for IT security management. It demonstrates a commitment to maintaining a secure computing environment, which is paramount in preventing data breaches and system vulnerabilities. An incorrect approach that involves bypassing established security protocols to grant immediate access to the requested software fails to uphold the principle of least privilege. This could lead to the installation of unauthorized or potentially malicious software, creating security vulnerabilities and exposing the organization to risks. Another incorrect approach, such as refusing the request outright without offering any alternative or escalation path, demonstrates poor customer service and a lack of problem-solving initiative. It fails to address the user's legitimate need for the software, potentially hindering their work. Finally, attempting to install the software without proper authorization or knowledge of its security implications is a direct violation of IT policy and could introduce significant security risks. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the user's request and its business justification. Next, they should consult existing IT policies and procedures to determine the standard course of action. If the request falls outside standard procedures or involves security considerations, the next step is to escalate the request to the appropriate authority or team for review and approval. This ensures that all decisions are documented, justified, and compliant with organizational guidelines and security best practices. Question 17. System analysis indicates that a user is experiencing intermittent application slowdowns on their workstation. The application in question handles sensitive financial data. The user has reported the issue for the past 2 days, and it seems to occur randomly, making it difficult to reproduce consistently. The workstation is connected to the company's internal network. Which of the following troubleshooting approaches would be the most appropriate and professional first step? Option A. Advise the user to restart their computer and see if the problem resolves itself, then document the outcome. Option B. Ask the user to describe the specific actions they were performing when the slowdowns occurred and check the workstation's resource utilization, CPU, RAM, disk. Option C. Suggest the user uninstall and then reinstall the application to ensure a clean software installation. Option D. Immediately begin checking the workstation's network connectivity and pinging the server hosting the application's database. The correct answer is D. Immediately begin checking the workstation's network connectivity and pinging the server hosting the application's database. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support where a user reports a performance issue that could stem from various sources, including hardware, software, or network problems. Professional challenge lies in efficiently diagnosing the root cause without causing further disruption or violating user privacy, especially when dealing with sensitive data. The need for a systematic approach is paramount to avoid wasting time on irrelevant troubleshooting steps and to ensure a timely resolution for the user. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a methodical process of gathering information, isolating variables, and testing hypotheses. This begins with understanding the user's specific complaint and the context in which the issue occurs. By observing the system's behavior and checking for common culprits like resource utilization, CPU, RAM, disk I/O, and network connectivity, a technician can narrow down the possibilities. Documenting findings at each step is crucial for tracking progress and for future reference. This systematic method aligns with best practices for IT troubleshooting, ensuring that solutions are based on evidence rather than guesswork. While the CompTIA A+ exam focuses on technical skills, the underlying principle of efficient problem solving is universally applicable and implicitly supported by the need for professional conduct. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately assuming a hardware failure and proceeding with component replacement without proper diagnosis. This is inefficient, costly, and could lead to unnecessary downtime if the issue is software-related. It also risks data loss if not handled with care. Another incorrect approach is to focus solely on software troubleshooting without considering the network, especially if the application relies heavily on network resources. This can lead to a prolonged resolution time. A third incorrect approach is to bypass standard diagnostic procedures and immediately delve into advanced system logs or registry edits without a clear understanding of the problem's scope. This can introduce new issues and is a sign of unprofessional, reactive troubleshooting. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such issues by first establishing clear communication with the user to understand the problem's symptoms and impact. Next, they should employ a structured troubleshooting methodology, starting with the simplest and most common causes and progressively moving to more complex ones. This involves gathering information, forming a hypothesis, testing it, and then verifying the solution. Documentation of each step and finding is essential for accountability and knowledge sharing. If sensitive data is involved, adherence to data privacy policies and procedures is critical, ensuring that no unauthorized access or disclosure occurs. Question 18. The risk matrix shows a critical server experiencing intermittent performance degradation, impacting multiple business-critical applications. The technician has identified a potential software conflict as the likely cause but has not yet completed a full diagnostic trace or consulted the vendor's knowledge base for known issues. The pressure to restore full functionality immediately is high. Which of the following actions represents the most professional and responsible approach to resolving this issue? Option A. Applying a recent patch to the operating system without verifying if it addresses the specific conflict, as patches generally improve stability. Option B. Performing a full diagnostic trace, consulting the vendor's knowledge base, and documenting all troubleshooting steps and findings before implementing any resolution. Option C. Rebooting the server and hoping the issue resolves itself, as this has worked in the past for minor glitches. Option D. Immediately uninstalling the suspected conflicting software to restore performance, with a plan to investigate the root cause later if the issue recurs. The correct answer is D. Immediately uninstalling the suspected conflicting software to restore performance, with a plan to investigate the root cause later if the issue recurs. Explanation. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support, where a technician must balance the immediate need for a system to be operational with the long-term implications of their actions, particularly concerning data integrity and security. The pressure to restore service quickly can lead to shortcuts that violate established protocols and potentially compromise sensitive information. The correct approach involves adhering to established incident response procedures, which are designed to ensure that all necessary steps are taken to resolve an issue while minimizing risk. This includes proper documentation, escalation, and verification of the fix. Following these procedures ensures that the resolution is not only effective in the short term, but also sustainable and compliant with organizational policies, which are often informed by general IT best practices and security principles applicable in a U.S. context. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of introducing new vulnerabilities or data corruption, thereby protecting the organization's assets and reputation. An incorrect approach that bypasses standard diagnostic steps or documentation is professionally unacceptable because it introduces significant risks. Failing to document the issue and resolution can lead to recurring problems, hinder future troubleshooting efforts, and make it impossible to track the root cause of the incident. Ignoring security protocols during a fix, such as not verifying user permissions or not ensuring data integrity, can lead to unauthorized access or data loss, which are serious ethical and potentially legal breaches. Similarly, failing to escalate a complex issue to a higher tier of support or a specialist team when initial attempts fail demonstrates a lack of professional judgment and can prolong downtime, increasing the negative impact on the business. These actions can also violate internal IT policies and general IT governance principles that aim to maintain system stability and security. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established procedures and policies. This involves understanding the scope of the problem, assessing potential risks associated with different solutions, consulting available documentation and knowledge bases, and knowing when to escalate. The primary goal is to resolve the issue effectively and efficiently while upholding security, data integrity, and compliance standards. When faced with time pressure, it is crucial to resist the temptation to take shortcuts that could have long-term negative consequences. Question 19. Compliance review shows that a critical user application is experiencing intermittent performance degradation, impacting productivity. A technician identifies a potential configuration setting that, if adjusted, could immediately resolve the issue. However, this adjustment deviates from the standard, documented configuration and has not undergone the formal change management approval process. The technician is under pressure from the user to restore full functionality. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Apply a temporary workaround without documenting it and wait to see if the issue recurs before initiating any formal processes. Option B. Temporarily adjust the configuration setting to restore functionality, thoroughly document the change and the reason for it, and immediately initiate the formal change management process for a permanent solution. Option C. Permanently adjust the configuration setting to resolve the issue, as the user's productivity is paramount and the adjustment appears to be effective. Option D. Advise the user that the issue cannot be resolved until the formal change management process is completed, even if it means extended downtime. The correct answer is B. Temporarily adjust the configuration setting to restore functionality, thoroughly document the change and the reason for it, and immediately initiate the formal change management process for a permanent solution. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support where a technician must balance the immediate need for a system to function with the long-term implications of their actions. The pressure to resolve a critical user issue quickly can lead to shortcuts that bypass established procedures, potentially creating security vulnerabilities or compliance risks. The technician's responsibility extends beyond just fixing the immediate problem. They must also ensure their actions align with organizational policies and any relevant industry standards or regulations that govern data handling and system integrity. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves documenting the temporary workaround and immediately initiating the formal process for a permanent solution. This demonstrates best professional practice by acknowledging the immediate user need while adhering to established change management and security protocols. Documenting the workaround is crucial for auditing, troubleshooting future issues, and ensuring that the temporary measure is not forgotten. Initiating the formal process for a permanent fix addresses the root cause and prevents recurrence, aligning with the principle of continuous improvement and system stability. This approach prioritizes both user productivity and long-term system health and security, which are implicitly expected under general IT best practices and often mandated by organizational policies that aim to maintain operational integrity. Incorrect approach is analysis. Implementing a permanent fix without following the change management process is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. It bypasses necessary testing, risk assessment, and approval steps, which are fundamental to maintaining system stability and security. This can lead to unintended consequences, system downtime, or security breaches, violating principles of responsible IT management and potentially contravening organizational policies designed to prevent such issues. Applying a temporary workaround and failing to document it or initiate a permanent solution is also professionally unacceptable. This creates an undocumented deviation from standard operating procedures, making future troubleshooting difficult and potentially leaving the system in a vulnerable state. It represents a failure in accountability and proactive problem-solving, as the underlying issue remains unaddressed, increasing the risk of recurrence or more severe problems down the line. Ignoring the issue and hoping it resolves itself is a clear abdication of professional responsibility. This approach not only fails to address the user's immediate need, but also neglects the potential for the problem to escalate, leading to greater disruption and potential data loss or security compromises. It demonstrates a lack of diligence and commitment to maintaining system functionality and user support. Professional reasoning. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that prioritizes problem resolution within established frameworks. This involves 1. Understanding the immediate impact and urgency of the issue. 2. Identifying potential solutions. 3. Evaluating each solution against established policies, security best practices, and potential risks. 4. Selecting the most appropriate solution that balances immediate needs with long-term integrity. And 5. Documenting all actions and initiating follow-up procedures for permanent resolution. This systematic approach ensures that all actions are justifiable, traceable, and contribute to the overall health and security of the IT environment. Question 20. Governance review demonstrates that a user is utilizing their personal laptop for company-related tasks, including accessing sensitive client information and proprietary project documents. The current setup involves storing all work files directly within the user's personal cloud storage and installing work applications alongside their personal software without any form of segregation. The IT technician is tasked with improving the security posture of this arrangement. Which of the following actions represents the most appropriate and compliant solution for managing work data on the user's personal device? Option A. Implement a virtual machine or containerization solution to isolate work applications and data from the user's personal environment. Option B. Install all necessary work applications directly into the user's operating system, allowing them to coexist with personal applications without specific isolation measures. Option C. Advise the user to store all work-related files in their personal cloud storage, ensuring they use strong passwords for their personal accounts. Option D. Directly access and organize the user's personal files to create dedicated folders for work-related documents. The correct answer is A. Implement a virtual machine or containerization solution to isolate work applications and data from the user's personal environment. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in IT support where a user's personal device is used for work purposes, creating a gray area regarding data ownership, security, and compliance. The professional challenge lies in balancing user convenience and privacy with the organization's need to protect sensitive data and maintain a secure computing environment, all while adhering to relevant U.S. regulations and company policy. The technician must navigate potential data breaches, intellectual property concerns, and compliance violations without alienating the user or compromising the integrity of company information. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves isolating the work data from the personal data on the user's device. This is best achieved by implementing a clear separation, such as using virtual machines or containerization technologies, or by establishing a dedicated work profile. This method upholds best professional practices by 1. Data security. It prevents accidental or intentional mixing of sensitive company data with personal data, reducing the risk of data leakage. 2. Compliance. It helps ensure that company data is handled according to regulations like HIPAA, if applicable to the industry, or SOX, which mandate data protection and auditing capabilities. By isolating work data, it becomes easier to monitor access and ensure compliance. 3. User privacy. It respects the user's personal space on their device by not requiring direct access to their personal files or applications for work-related tasks. 4. Policy adherence. It aligns with typical IT policies that dictate how company data should be managed, even on personal devices used for work, BYOD policies. Incorrect approaches analysis. Storing all work-related files directly in the user's personal cloud storage, e.g., their personal Google Drive or Dropbox, is professionally unacceptable because 1. Data security failure. It bypasses organizational security controls and potentially exposes sensitive company data to unauthorized access if the user's personal cloud account is compromised. This violates the principle of least privilege and proper data segregation. 2. Compliance risk. It makes it difficult, if not impossible, to audit access to company data or ensure its secure disposal, leading to potential violations of data privacy and protection regulations. 3. Intellectual property risk. Company intellectual property could become commingled with personal assets, creating ownership disputes and making it harder to protect proprietary information. Installing work applications directly alongside personal applications without any segregation is professionally unacceptable because 1. Security vulnerabilities. Personal applications might have vulnerabilities that could be exploited to gain access to work applications or data. This creates an insecure attack surface. 2. Data contamination. Accidental sharing or copying of sensitive work data into personal applications or storage is highly probable, leading to data breaches and compliance issues. 3. Lack of control. The IT department loses granular control over how work data is accessed, stored, and transmitted, making it difficult to enforce security policies and respond to incidents. Directly accessing and managing the user's personal files to organize work data is professionally unacceptable because 1. Privacy violation. This is a significant breach of user privacy and could violate laws like the Electronic Communications Privacy Act (ECPA) if not handled with explicit, informed consent and strict adherence to company policy. 2. Erosion of trust. Such actions severely damage the trust between the IT department and the user, hindering future cooperation and support. 3. Legal ramifications. Unauthorized access to personal data can lead to legal action against the company. Professional reasoning. When faced with a BYOD, bring your own device situation, IT professionals must prioritize data security, regulatory compliance, and user privacy. The decision-making process should involve 1. Understanding company policy. Always refer to the organization's BYOD policy and acceptable use policy. 2. Assessing risk. Evaluate the sensitivity of the data being handled and the potential risks associated with the user's device and their usage patterns. 3. Implementing technical controls. Utilize appropriate technologies, virtualization, containers, MDM/MAM solutions, to create a secure and segregated work environment. 4. User education. Clearly communicate policies and best practices to users regarding the use of personal devices for work. 5. Documentation. Document all decisions, configurations, and user agreements to ensure accountability and facilitate audits.